everyone, this is Toiba from Slst Creations. Today I'm going to be making this pleated high waist skirt. It also has straps. You can see the strap is actually crossed back. So for this pattern I used worsted weight yarn. So but for this tutorial I'm going to be doubling this yarn here to make up for DK weight. I'm also going to be using 5.0 mm hook and then stitch marker. This pattern contains instruction from 0 to 6 months to 8 years, so you can find the pattern in my Ravelry, Etsy and Lovecraft stores. So without further ado, let's get started. So to start, I'm going to make a slip knot and then make a chain of 165. So go ahead and make your chain of 165 and I will join you at the end of the chains. So I've made 165 chains and I'm about to join it in the round. So I made sure that the chains is not twisted. So I'm going to join it in the round with the slip stitch. So I'm into the first chain, yarn over, pull through, and then I'll pull through this last chain too. So our chain is now joining the round. You have 165 chains in total. So for round 1 now I'm going to chain 2. This chain 2 does not count as a stitch. I'll go into the very first stitch and make a double crochet. Sorry. Go into the first stitch and make a double crochet. Then I'll mark my first stitch. I'm going to each chain around and make a double crochet into each chain around. So at the end of round 1 we have a total of 165 double crochets. So just go ahead and do that and I'll join you at the end of round 1. So I have gone around double crochets and I have 165 double crochets in total. So you can see that it's not twisted. So I'm going to close the round with a slip stitch, remove the stitch marker from the first stitch and just finish the round with the slip stitch to the first stitch of the round. So we are going to repeat round 1 for 12 additional rounds. So moving on to round 2, chain 2, make a double crochet into the same stitch. The chain 2 does not count as a stitch. So place the stitch marker and then make a double crochet into each stitch around. So we are going to have 165 double crochets at the end of each round. There won't be any increases or decreases. This pattern contains instruction from size 0 to 6 months up to 10 years, not 8 years. So just go ahead and make double crochets into each stitch around, making sure that there's no increases or decreases on each row. 165 double crochets on each row, and I'll join you when I'm through with row 13. So I've made it to round 13. This is what I have so far, and I have 165 stitches per round. So for the next round now I'm going to start making the pleats. So since we have 165 stitches, I'm going to each pleat will have 15 stitches, so that will be 11 pleats in total. So I'm going to start the first pleat now. Count from my very first stitch here. This is 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 12 13 14 and 15. So I'm going to place my stitch marker here. That's the first group. So to start the pleats now, I'm going to chain 2. Remember, the chain 2 does not count as a stitch. Chain 2, yarn over and go into the first stitch. Then we'll go into the 10th stitch. So let's count 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 and 10. So I'm going to go into the 10th stitch like this and into the 11th stitch like that. So then I'm going to yarn over and pull through. We have 3 loops on our hook. Yarn over and pull through 2. Yarn over and pull through 2 to complete the double crochet. That's the first double crochet of the round. Then we yarn over again, yarn over, go into the 2nd stitch and into the 9th stitch. That's the next stitch to the 10th one that we worked into the 9th stitch. Then we go into the 12th stitch here, yarn over and pull through. We have 3 loops on our hook. yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over and pull through 2. That's the second double crochet of the round. Yarn over again, go into the third double crochet here, then into the 8th double crochet here, then into the 13th double crochet. Then we yarn over, pull through. We have 3 loops on our hook. Yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. We have 3 double crochets so far. Then yarn over again, go into the 4th double crochet, then into the 7th double crochet here, that's the 7th double crochet. This is the 7th double crochet, then into the 14th double crochet here, yarn over, pull through 2, and then pull through 2. So for the last double crochet now, yarn over, go into the 5th stitch and into the 6th stitch at the same time. They are next to each other, so you can see I've gone through both of them. Then into the 15th stitch. So remove the stitch marker and go into that. Yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. So you have made 15 double crochets into 5. So you can see what the pleats looks like. So I'm just going to keep repeating that. We'll start another group of 15. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. So place our stitch marker here. So we yarn over now, go into the next stitch. This will be the first of the next group of pleats. Then we go into the 10th stitch. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. We go into this 10th stitch and into the 11th stitch. We yarn over and pull through. Yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. So you can see that the second pleat has started to form. So just keep repeating that around, and I will join you at the end of round 14. So I've just finished the 11th pleat. So I'm going to finish the round with a slip stitch to the first stitch of the round. So this is what we have so far. So now the next thing to do is the ripped part here, this part here. So for that, I'm going to start with a chain of 14 from this first stitch now. So I'm going to chain 14. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14. So I'm going to skip the first chain and then single crochet into the second chain from the hook, and then make a single crochet into each chain all the way across. So we have, we have 13 single crochets. So I'll just do that off camera and I'll join you when I'm through with the 13 single crochets. So I've made 13 single crochets. Now I'm going to make a slip stitch. This is the first stitch. I'm going to make a slip stitch into the second stitch here. Make a slip stitch. Then for the next row, row 2, I'm going to turn my work. I'm not going to make any chain, just turn your work, and then I'm going to work into the back loops only. So we're going to make single crochet into the back loops only all the way to the top. So that's 13 single crochets into back loops only. Just turn your work, do not chain one. So just go ahead and make single crochets into back loops only, and I'll join you at the end of the row. So I made it to the top. I have 13 single crochets. So for row 3 now, chain 1, turn, then make single crochets into back loops only. So when we are at this point, we do not chain one, and when we start from the top, we start with chain 1, turn, and single crochets into the back loops only. So basically I'm just going to keep repeating rows 2 and 3. So let me just finish this row 3 and then I'll show you what next to do. So I made it to the end. I have 13 single crochets. So now, you know how we made the slip stitch into the second stitch here. So this is the third stitch. You're going to skip that and then make a slip stitch into the fourth stitch. Then we turn our work, do not chain 1, and then make a repeat of row 2 again. And we just get to this point, we chain 1, turn, and make a repeat of row 3. So we just keep between row 2 and 3 till we get to the end. So we should end with a repeat of row 3. So just go ahead and do that, and I'll join you when I'm through with mine. So I already made it to the last row, which is row 55, and that's a repeat of row 3. So I've worked down. Now here I've already slip stitched to row 54 before, so you have just 1 stitch left. Remember, I'm supposed to skip a stitch and then slip stitch into the next stitch, but because we also have 1 stitch left, I'm going to slip stitch into the 55th stitch here. Now at this point you can just chain 1 and cut here, and then take a tapestry needle to sew up, or you can just use your hook and a yarn to slip stitch this part up. But before I do that, I would like to mark the point where I'm going to be adding my straps. So this is row 1, row 2, 3 and 4. I'm going to be skipping 4 rows from this point. I'm going to mark the 5th row with a stitch marker here. That's 5, 6, 7, 8 and 9. I'm going to put another one here. So I'm going to be using five rows for my strap. So I'm going to do the same thing on this other side. This is 1 row, 2, 3, 4. So into the 5th one, I'm going to attach a stitch marker. This is 5, 6, 7, 8 and row 9. The 9th row from this end. So I'm going to mark this point too. So that's where my suspenders will go through. So I'll just go ahead and use my my yarn and hook to stitch this up together, and I will join you when I'm through with that. If you decided to slip stitch the beginning and the end together, I want to mention that try to turn your work inside out so that when you stitch up, the outside looks clean. It looks better on the outside. So I'm just going to stitch this up using slip stitches all the way to the top. You can see how I'm doing it, and I'll join you when I get to the top and show you how to do these straps. So I've finished sewing it up. I chain 1 and then I cut my yarn. You can see how neat it looks. Of course, if you decide to use tapestry needle, so you have to work on the inside to have a neat look here. So the next thing to do now is the strap. So I'm going to start from this point. So I'm going to remove the stitch marker. And then attach my yarn. So I'll chain 1 to secure. Now make a single crochet into that same space, and single crochet into the next 4 stitches. So that's a total of 5 single crochets. Let me mark my first single crochet so it will be easy to locate. Three, 4. Then let me remove my stitch marker to do the last one. 5. So that's the first row. Then I'll chain 1 again, turn. This is row 2 now. Make a single crochet into each stitch across. can add just stitch marker just to make it easy to locate. So 3, 4. I'll just stitch marker to make the last one, and 5. So basically, just keep repeating that. Chain 1, turn, make a single crochet into each of the single crochet from the previous row. So just keep repeating that until you get to row 53, and I'll join you when I get to row 53. So I've made it to row 56. It was a slip of tongue. I meant to say row 56, not row 53. So I'm on row 56 now. So for the next row, I'm going to make the button O. So chain 1, turn, make a single crochet into the first stitch, then chain 3, 1, 2, 3, skip 3 stitches, and then make a single crochet into the last stitch. Now you don't have to chain 3. My button is big, that's why I'm chaining 3. You can just decide to chain to depend on the size of your button. So for row 58 now, that's all for row 57. For row 58 now, chain 1, turn, make a single crochet into the first stitch, and then 3 single crochets into the chain space. So if you have made 2 chains here, you are still going to make 3 single crochets into the chain space, so that we can still have our 5 single crochets again. So I'm going to make a single crochet into the last stitch here, so we have 5 single crochets for row 58. So for row 59, we just chain 1, turn, and make a single crochet into each stitch across. So we just repeat that once more, and then we do the row of button O again. So this is row 57, row 58. I'm working on row 59, so I will join when I'm through with row 60. Just work into each stitch across. So I made it to row 60. You can see what our button O looks like here on row 57. So I've made 3 more rows, so we have row 60 now. So I'm going to make another button O on row 50. I'm on row 61. Sorry. So chain 1, turn, make a single crochet into the first stitch, chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and then a single crochet into the last stitch. Then we are going to repeat what we did earlier. Chain 1, turn for row 62, make a single crochet into the first stitch, make 3 single crochets into the chain space, 2 and 3, and then we'll make 1 last single crochet at the end here. So for row 63 and 64, which is the last row, so just make a single crochet into each stitch across, and then just chain 1 and cut our yarn. So let me finish row 63, chain 1, and then make a single crochet across, chain 1 and cut your yarn at the end of row 64. So then repeat the same thing for the other strap. So I'll go ahead and do the other strap, and I'll join you when I'm through with the other strap. So I'm through with the second strap, but I wanted to show you this view. If you don't want to make the straps at all, you can leave it like this. This part is ripped, it will stretch and then come back. So but I've finished the second strap. These are the straps. So the next thing to do now is to attach our buttons. So to attach the button, we'll count 11 rows. From this is the last row we did the strap here. So from here, we count 11 rows. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Then on the 12th one, we're going to be adding our button here. So I had one at the top here on that 12th row from the where we did the strap here. Then we leave about a inch between, and then we put the second button here also. So we do the same on the other side. Count 11 from this strap and then attach your button on the next row. So I'll just go and attach my button off camera, and I'll come then weaving on my hands, and I'll come to show you what the final piece looks like. So this is what the final piece looks like. So I hope you enjoyed watching this tutorial. I'll try to put the free link and the free pattern on my blog. So I hope to see you in the next tutorial. Thanks for watching. Bye.